This is my Module 3 redesign by Bill Perkins. In this module, I covered the applications of transformative learning to the MSN homepage. Transformative learning is an adult learning theory of deep learning that goes beyond just acquiring knowledge or learning equations, memorizing information, or learning historical facts and data. Transformative learning was developed by Jack Mesereau in 1978 and has been brought in by Robert Boyd and Paulo Freire. It involves being more reflective and critical, being more open to the perspectives of others, and being less defensive and more accepting of ideas. So Jack Mesereau described the transformational um, learning theory as being constructivist and orientation which holds that way learners interpret and reinterpret their sense experience is central to making meaning and hence learning. Um, this theory involves two kinds of learning: instrumental learning, which focuses on problem solving through task accomplishment and determining of cause and effect relationships. Communicative learning involves how others communicate their feelings, needs, and desires with another person. According to Mesereau, the goal of transformational learning is to change the frame of reference, to take assumptions that arise when making an assessment and be coherent as to what shaped you to become that, to give you that assumption. So Robert Boyd expanded Mesereau's theory with his own research and understanding. Boyd paid attention to the individual's ability to work with themselves and take care of any problems that they have been going through with themselves. Discernment is composed of the three different steps, because Boyd was focused on discernment within the theory, and it involves using images and symbols in order to create a personal image of what they are like. So these three different steps in discernment is receptivity, where the person must be willing to have an open mind and to think about things. Recognition, they must recognize things that need to change or things that are going to be around them. Grieving, when the individuals take a new way of doing things or try to integrate new ideas, that they must realize the fact that the steps that they have taken before are no longer relevant to what they are going to have to do in the future. So basically, Boyd wanted to add dynamics where the learner looks at himself objectively and reframes the assumption in an effort to identify other factors leading to that answer. And then you have Paulo Freire is another person who had worked with transformational learning. Instead of focusing on the individual, like Mesereau, Freire puts his efforts on social change. He believes that critical reflection is an important part of the transformational learning process. He agrees that the more critically aware learners become, the more they are able to transform society and subsequently their own reality. And Freire thinks that engaging in the act of transformational learning, society is transformed. Freire has three concepts through which he has contributed to adult education. So education needs to be more liberating than the teacher giving students knowledge to memorize. So students need to give back to close that learning cycle. And basically, that style of learning will not work with adult learners. That style of, lecture and then memorize what the teacher says. Praxis, which is moving back and forth in a critical way between reflecting and action on the world. Horizontal student-teacher relationship, whereby the student and teachers operate on the same level. And that works well in adult education. So there are numerous ways in which adults can be taught. Thus, there is not one correct way in which this learning theory should be applied. There are several key points to apply the transformational learning in practice, and they are as follows. Learning conditions should be ideal in order to promote safety and trust. Effective instructional methods that support a learner centered approach should encompass promoting student autonomy and participation and collaboration. Activities should promote the exploration of alternative personal perspectives, problem posing, and critical reflection. Teachers should possess attributes that are trusting, empathetic, caring, authentic, and sincere. Teachers should also foster a learning environment of trust and care in which the learners and teachers have a sensitive relationship with each other. Students should share the responsibility for establishing a learning atmosphere in which the transformative learning can occur. According to Mesereau, the roles of the educators include help the learner focus on and examine the assumptions that underlie their beliefs, their feelings, and their actions. The educator should do an exercise in class that allows the learners to spend time exploring their beliefs on the topic. The teachers should also group the students who have similar assumptions together. Or they can check some existing systems like communism or capitalism and see if the students are on the same page and what those consequences are. Identify and explore alternative sets of assumptions. So the teacher should also host discussions, group sharing, and debate. And the teachers can help the students open their minds to different beliefs and feelings underlying that different assumptions. The teacher should also test the validity of assumptions through effective participation in reflective dialogue. The teacher should encourage dialogue to reflect and review what has happened to them. So, here again, we are at the original wiki page, the MSN homepage with no changes. And here again, we have the module 1 of Bloom's taxonomy theory. Just by reading and going through these stories, you're going to tap into those cognitive and affective domains. So this button right here will help develop the psychomotor domain, as the user would condition themselves to hit the button in the same location for additional information or to keep the page engaged from going into the screensaver. So I think that would kind of give it a I guess a developed or shaped behavior. And here you have the module 2 changes with the verbal linguistic learners. They have the ability to understand and manipulate words and languages. Their strengths include writing, reading, basically audible learning is going to help them. So these changes encompass making your selection of any respective story up here or articles under these icons, and then hitting an audio file to have that story read to you. And here basically is my module 3 changes. And to stay consistent with the transformational learning theory, it would be necessary to trigger a response in the reader, have him or her see another viewpoint. The efforts they employ to see another viewpoint will raise a sense of awareness as to how their values and past experiences shape their original answer and to learn another side to it. For example, clicking on U.S. News here in the red section where I circled it below, it may give a guide a reader to an article about presidential election that we just had or U.S. combat operations abroad. Any subjectivity from the writer can be followed up with a devil's advocate style question. See, most of these political articles, have a little bit of a spin to them. So just to tap into another point of view, adding for the writer to add, or the data administrator here of the wiki can add a devil's advocate question to tap into some dynamics in thought. So if the article is about the pros and cons associated with Obamacare, a follow-up question asking the reader what are the cons associated with that Obamacare. If that article, I guess, illustrated a lot of pros, Then asking the cons will trigger the reader to raise awareness on why they may have agreed with the article's illustration of the benefits to begin with. So the end result is that that reader has more self-awareness on how they formulate their answers. They understand another viewpoint, and they're subconsciously forced to gain a more in-depth knowledge on the issue at hand, which is Obamacare. And this concludes my Module 3 changes to my wiki. And I thank you for watching and listening.